Hey, g'day church. Hey, great to be with you as we dig a little bit deeper into God's Word on the back end of this great series we've been doing in 2 Peter called Clarity. You know, as Peter wraps it all up and writes some really practical words to the church, to this community of believers, he was really trying to help them to think through what kind of ways should we live as we are now awaiting with a great sense of anticipation this imminent return of Christ. And one of the things that he says there in terms of behavior, he talks about living holy and godly lives. This idea of holiness is not something that's new to Peter. In fact, if you go back to the book of 1 Peter chapter 1, he talks about this response of holy living. In 1 Peter 1 verse 15 he says, "But you must be holy in everything you do, just as God, who chose you to be his children, is holy. For he himself has said, you must be holy because I am holy." You know, it's a motherhood word that we throw around, we should be holy or godly. You know, what does holiness really mean? Now, I think over the years, we've kind of taken it to this place where holiness means God being holy, he is set apart. And so we look at that and we think, well, we need to be set apart as well too. And so we take this line of making our lives distinctively different by the rules and regulations that we embrace, and we say, well, I'm being a holy person. The problem with that is, whilst that might be a good thing, the Word of God says not to be conformed to the patterns of this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our mind, that when we do that, I think we sometimes come off being rather smug or arrogant, or another word, we're rather haughty, and people outside just don't get that or relate to that, and they just see us as being weird. You know, what's it mean for us to pursue behaviour that's holy? I think one of the greatest examples, and I mentioned it yesterday, but I want to just go back to it just briefly. In the book of Acts chapter 4, got this whole story where Peter and John have been arrested there before the council. They're being grilled by the religious leaders for their actions. And in Acts chapter 4 verse 12, you get the response of these religious leaders to them. Actually, it's verse 13 where it says, "The members of the council were amazed when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, for they could see that they were ordinary men who had no special training." They stood out. There's something about them. And then the next line captures it so well. It says, "They also recognized them as men who had been with Jesus." You see, there is something that came from having spent time with Christ, having lived with him, having had the words that Jesus had spoken over their lives. It had so transformed their lives that it wasn't the rules and regulations that were making them to stand out. It was the fact they'd been with Jesus. And so I want to encourage us as a church and as individuals, wherever you might be, as you think about this week and in terms of the life that you live, don't make it about following rules and regulations. Make it about the fact that you've been with Jesus. And that when we're in his word, when we're praying, when we're seeking him, when we're worshipping him, all of that is going to bubble up within us, and it's going to create within us a godliness. But then the behavior that comes out is a desire to want to live in such a way because we have been with Jesus. So I trust that wherever it might be for you this week, some of those thoughts just help you to make it about Jesus and about the way in which you are living out your life. It's been a great series. I trust that it's been encouraging to you, inspiring to you. It's helping you to live and follow Jesus well. And as we push into this week and into a brand new series called Extraordinary, that's just going to add to some of the great things we're learning as we dig into God's Word and we allow him to transform our lives.